If you have ever experienced failure at work, particularly if you are under the demand being placed upon you at work and it's making you to feel like you may not be able to succeed and do well and excel at work, in this particular video, in this particular episode of the Dayo Samuel Mastery Session, what I want to do is to offer you actionable tips, steps, and strategies that you can use today to overcome fear of failure at work. What is the first thing you need to do? And of course, in case you are just getting to meet me, I am Dayo Samuel, and here on the Dayo Samuel Mastery Session, what I do is to provide you actionable tips, steps, and strategies to help you transform your life as well as handle the mental and emotional challenges that you may be experiencing in your life. The goal is for you to utilize the things that I share with you here to turn them into everyday tools for your own transformation and well-being. So, what is the first thing you need to do if you are having the fear of failure, which is commonly referred to as Atychiphobia? If this is now affecting you at work, what can you do? Well, the first thing you need to understand is the fact that all negative experiences have some benefits. And when I say all negative experiences have some benefits, even if they are hard to see in the moment, all experiences have positive benefits as well as negative benefits. The interesting thing is that the more negative experiences we've had have a lot of positive benefits that we can take out from there. So let's say that, as with the case of a client that I was handling today, the client was about to lose her marriage. And by the way, the losing of marriage was not the reason why she came to therapy. The main reason why she came for our session was basically because she felt like, okay, some other things were actually affecting her, particularly in she was not kind of mentally stable. So she needed to be in a mental stability to be able to handle some of the things that are coming up in our own life. And interestingly, we found that the reason why she is afraid that her marriage may fail is because her parents' marriage had failed. And because her parents' marriage had failed, she had not over time taken time to actually extract lessons from that. So I asked her that, can you pick 3 lessons from your parents' failed marriage? And she said, well, I'm not sure I can pick anything, but let me try. Eventually, she actually picked 4 lessons that she could take away from her parents' failed marriage. So I asked her again that, is there anything you are currently doing now that may contribute to your marriage failing? And that uncovered a lot of things that she probably has not been thinking of before. So if you have been experiencing failure, or if you have failed in the past, you may want to start by picking a past failure and looking at it and writing out 3 lessons you learned from that failure. So if you have failed in the past at all, maybe you failed when you were young, maybe you failed when you were given a task at work, or you failed even in some other context that is not completely related to your work, look at such experiences and ask yourself, what lessons can I pick out from these experience, and write out, try as much as make that demand on your own mental capacity to bring out a minimum of 3 lessons from that. So for example, if you missed an important deadline, maybe you learned that you need to prioritize better. Maybe you learned to say no to more projects. Maybe you learned to tone down the perfectionism, that is to reduce the level of perfectionism you are demanding of yourself. Of course, perfectionism is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't are actually experiencing the fear of failure. But of course, maybe in a different episode, I'm going to get to that. So what I want you to do right now is ask yourself, have you made any changes to prevent failures like this happening in the future? If not, then this may be the time to take this moment to actually make those few changes. And number 2 thing that you can do right now to overcome the fear of failure is to engage in what is called symbolic modeling. And right now, I know you may be wondering, which one is symbolic modeling again? So here's what symbolic modeling is. Sometimes in 1978, Albert Bandura, one of the persons who created the conditioning theory of fear, how fear is conditioned into humans, ran an hypothesis, and he published it in a journal of personality and social psychology. So in that experiment, what they did is they had 2 groups of children who had fear of dogs. And these two groups of children who had fear of dogs were exposed to 2 scenarios. So they had 2 case studies. One group, they opened them up to seeing a movie where the people in the movie were playing with dogs without fear. Now, different numbers of persons, as in different people that they could relate with. And then in the second group, they will only play to them a movie where only one person was playing with dog in different areas, but just one person. Now, in the two case studies, actually proved effective in helping the children overcome their fear of dogs. But the most powerful that they saw was with the group where more people were playing with dogs than just one person playing with dogs in multiple places. The group with the more people playing with dogs was actually really helpful, because the children could see that if this person could do it, this other person can do it, this other person can do it, this other person can do it. And so somehow that created a model in their minds that even me, I can do it. So if you are prone to failure, expose yourself to multiple people's stories who are overcoming their own fears in their own ways, or people who have had to overcome failures in the past. And this is particularly important because sometimes we think that we are the only ones who are experiencing whatever it is we're experiencing at that time and that point in our lives. But the truth is, there are dozens of other people who are experiencing the same thing. In fact, that has helped me as a professional to know that, okay, if my client is experiencing this, then there are most likely going to be others who are experiencing that same thing. So, for example, some of the content I create is coming from, or some of this content come from the fact that my clients are bringing some things up, and then I say, okay, if my client could be experiencing this, then there might be some others who are experiencing that. So, for example, this fear of failure is something that a client of mine is experiencing. And by the way, by the time we finished working together, the client actually smashed his KPI at work. So, if you are experiencing fear of failure, expose yourself to people who are currently overcoming their own fears. And that might mean that you might need to join a community like mine. Of course, when I say community like mine, I'm referring to where you are currently engaging with this content right now. Now, number 3 is to deal with that fear in your mind. If you think of fear as a threat, as many of us do, your physical body will prepare for battle and you feel like you are in a battle. On the other hand, if you view this fear as a stress, as a challenge, as something that you need to tackle, then you're most unlikely to think of yourself as being capable of handling that fear. And here's what I mean. Our brains, our mind don't know what is real from what is imagined. When we are under a fear situation, our brain is simply just doing its most important role, which is to preserve our safety, and second thing, to quickly learn as much as possible so that it can quickly prevent whatever it is that may happen in the future. Now, having that background, having that understanding, when you have this fear, and then when you actually have this feeling of emotion, this emotion of fear running through your body, rather than seeing it as something to run away from, if you see it as a challenge, like, okay, so what do I need to solve? What problem do I need to solve right now? That actually helps your brain, because somehow turning worries, fears into challenges actually help your brain to develop ability to handle the fear going forward. So again, fear of failure can be so strong that avoiding failure overshadows the motivation to succeed. I've seen people that rather than wanting to succeed, they are actually more captured by the fear of failure. Of course, because definitely it can make you to feel embarrassed in front of your colleagues. It can result in a lot of things. And if you're afraid of failure, it will most likely cause you to avoid potentially harmful situations. It will want to make you avoid situations where you are going to need to be placed in the position where that failure will really show up. But the interesting thing is, as you've learned from this particular episode, when you take up the challenge, when you take up that fear of failure as a challenge, that's when you will actually overcome it. Fear of failure keeps many people from trying. It creates self-doubt, it stops progress, and may lead to you going against your morals. It may lead to you doing things that you don't want to do. The question I want to ask you today is, having learned these things that I've shared with you today, are you going to let the fear of failure keep you bound? Or you are going to break free from your fear of failure and go forward to achieve the things that really matter to you? Of course, depending on your answer, I would like to hear from you. Share any of the things that go on in your mind. Share with me in the comments right now. And as well, if you would like to be a part of my private sessions, if you would like to get into a private conversation with me, maybe this seems to be overwhelming and you cannot handle it on your own, then I'm going to recommend you check the link in the description of this particular episode so that you can book a one-on-one consultation with me, where we are going to walk through everything that is making you be fearful of failure at work or maybe even in your own life, and we'll see to developing a plan that helps you handle that. I am Dayo Samuel again, and I'm going to see you in any of the videos that you are seeing on my screen right now. Till I come your way again next time, I bid you farewell. Please remember to live courageously.